The newest Tempest Trials Plus is here and it's called Mirage Vortex. If you earn the maximum 50,000 points, you can get up to 42 orbs, 11,000 feathers, and 80 sacred coins. The blessing for this time is a fire blessing, which does match legendary Celica's element from last month. The sacred seals this time are Defiant Defense, Mirror Stance, and Chill Res. Our Tempest Trials reward unit is Itsuki and his Mirage is Chrom. If you're just returning to the game, Itsuki is from Tokyo Mirage Session Sharp FE, and we have an ongoing banner featuring some other characters too. You can get a 4-star and 5-star copy of Itsuki. For the rest of this video, we'll talk about our sacred seals more and then discuss Itsuki as a unit. We've got some pretty good stuff to break down, so let's get started. Our first sacred seal is probably the most disappointing part of this Tempest Trials, so at least we'll get it out of the way first. Defiant Defense 3 grants a +7 defense field buff if the user starts the turn under 50% HP. The Defiant skills have been extremely underwhelming since the start of the game. There are some very niche uses for them, but by and large they have been outclassed by the Brazen skills, which grant +7 to 2 different stats when under 80% HP, and those are in combat buffs, so you can stack on a field buff on top. As a sacred seal, Defiant skills in general are just not worth upgrading for most players. I would suggest looking into the Brazen sacred seals instead. Next we have Mirror Stance 2. If the foe initiates combat, grants +4 attack and res during combat. So this is a dual stance skill and they are enemy phase stat boosters. It's a decent skill, but ideally you're going to want to use it on someone who really wants extra attack plus that resistance. We do have a variety of other stance skills available. The Mirror Stance 2 seal can stack with the newish Mirror Stance 3A skill. That would get you +10 attack and res on the enemy phase. Mirror Stance is also our first dual stance sacred seal with attack built in, so for those that want more attack but don't want to use Fierce Stance, this is another alternative. Not a must upgrade, but it mainly depends on what you want to use this specific stat combo for. Last we have Chill Res, which comes at a very good time. At the start of the turn, inflict -7 resistance on the foe on the enemy team with the highest res stat. Chill skills are always super useful, and Chill Res is our last one to be made as sacred seal. They always work as long as your user is alive. They have a global range, and you can pretty much stick them on any unit. I think all the Chill sacred seals are worth upgrading. They are just handy if you really want to mess up the enemy with a certain stat. Chill Res specifically is great for any team with a lot of magic damage, mages, dragons, or even healers. It also comes at a very good time since low attack and res just got released on the new banner. Both of these skills work super well together because low attack and res inflicts an in-combat debuff, which is going to stack with Chill Res's regular field debuff. If a low attack user attacks the enemy hit by chill resistance, that is already -10 res, which equals to extra damage basically. You can use it with Kidia, who inflicts another -6 resistance plus has an absurd amount of attack, and you get a lot of damage even on the highest res enemy. Other good users to pair with Chill Res include Reinhardt naturally with his Dire Thunder Tome hitting twice. You get to take advantage of that -7 res 2 times, so that's another 14 extra damage. It's also fantastic for AoE special spamming mages like Ophelia. The AoE special calculates using the enemy's res stat on the field, and if you can lower that by -7, it gains so much extra damage. I will basically have this sacred seal permanently glued to someone on my Aether Raid's offense team. Expect to see the sacred seal a lot in PvP modes if the enemy uses a lot of mages. Being able to use it in the sacred seal slot gives Chill Res a lot of value, same with the other chill skills. Definitely a worthy upgrade.
I'm Itsuki with Fortuna Entertainment. I hope to make it big someday.
Itsuki has shown me the wondrous power of the world of entertainment.
I'm gonna start by saying that Itsuki is a lot more interesting than I first expected. It seems like our more recent free sword units have gotten a lot of cool toys, but if you wield a lance, well, good luck. Itsuki is an infantry swordsman, and just like in Smash, we have a lot of those already. His stats include 41 HP, 37 attack, 30 speed, 33 defense, and 32 resistance. At first glance, this may not seem that amazing. Sure, 37 attack is pretty great, but 30 speed is rather middling, definitely below average for today's game where we just got 2 sword infantry units who hit 50 speed rather easily. 41 HP is okay, not terrific or terrible, and 33 defense is good. Again, nothing super outstanding. What is really a standout for Itsuki is his 32 base resistance. Now normally this is a pretty decent res stat for any unit. It's not super high like 35 plus, but it's nice to have some res to not get completely blown up by all the mages and dragons out there. However, for sword infantry units, this is a different story. 32 res is like god tier because sword units in general just have awful res stats. Itsuki has the second highest res stat for sword infantry units, and that's good enough to be tied for 5th highest res stat for all sword units in the whole game. If you just look at his base stats, attack and resistance are Itsuki's standout traits, but that is going to change once you include his unique weapon. Itsuki comes with the Mirage Falchion. It has 16 might and is effective against dragon foes. Very nice since he has very high base attack. Mirage Falchion also grants +3 flat defense, so Itsuki will now have 36 defense, which is pretty solid. Now for its 2 effects, if you understand how the new Blade Session and Shield Session skills work, then this is easy to figure out. Basically, Mirage Falchion uses both the player phase and enemy phase session skill mechanics. If Itsuki initiates combat, grant a bonus to his attack and defense equal to 3 plus the number of allies who have already acted times 2. This has a max value of +7. If the foe initiates combat, grants bonus to attack and defense equal to 7 minus the number of foes who have already acted times 2. This has a minimum value of +3. The player phase portion of this weapon works just like Blade Session, but instead of boosting attack and speed, it's attack and defense, and it has a max of +7, not +9. The enemy phase portion works like Shield Session, but instead of boosting defense and resistance, it's attack and defense again. So first thing to understand is that the minimum value of both parts is +3 attack and defense. Because one effect works on the player phase and one works on the enemy phase, that means Itsuki basically has a permanent +3 attack and defense. You will always get that stat boost no matter what. Yesterday we covered what counts as a unit having already acted, and we learned that it only counts grayed out units on the map. That means those units must have moved and are now waiting. For the player phase portion, if one ally is grayed out, then Itsuki gets +5 attack and defense. If 2 allies or more are grayed out, then he will get the max +7 attack and defense boost. For the enemy phase portion, this is reversed. Itsuki starts with +7 attack and defense, and he keeps that if the first enemy to move attacks him. If there is one enemy that is grayed out, Itsuki only gets +5 attack and defense, and if 2 enemies are grayed out, then you get the minimum +3 attack and defense. I hope that is not too complicated. Again, because the minimum value is +3 for both parts of Mirage Falchion, it means Itsuki will always get +3 attack and defense no matter what. If you consider this and add those stats to his base stats, things get pretty interesting. Itsuki would essentially have 40 attack, 56 with Mirage Falchion's might included. He would also have 39 defense because he also add the flat +3 defense from before. I think this is the best way to look at Mirage Falchion. It's a 16 might dragon killer weapon that is always giving Itsuki +3 attack and +6 defense. If you fulfill these session requirements, you can add an additional +4 attack and defense potentially. Optimally, if you get the max +7 stat boost, Itsuki will be able to hit 60 attack and 43 defense just with Mirage Falchion in hand. You can also still give him attack and defense field buffs. So Itsuki is going to get a ton of attack, have an actually impressive amount of defense, and he is one of the highest res sword units in the game. Suffice to say, but I would recommend keeping this weapon. For the rest of Itsuki's base kit, he comes with 4 more skills. He has swap as his assist skill because he also has attack and defense link. If he swaps an ally or if an ally uses a movement assist skill on him, he will get a +6 attack and defense field buff. Like I mentioned, this stacks on top of all of Mirage Falchion's stat boost because those are combat buffs. This already is a solid base kit with good synergy. For his special, Itsuki comes with Soul to get some extra healing. He also comes with Drive Defense 2, which grants +3 defense to all allies within 2 spaces. This is a combat buff, so it stacks with attack and defense link, and remember those skills grant +6 stat boosts to both units evolved, so this means Itsuki can give an ally +6 attack and effectively +9 defense if he is nearby. Not the most mind-blowing base kit, but everything here is solid and Itsuki can buff himself up or help out some allies. I'm still a little scarred from Travon's Silverlands, and Itsuki's base kit looks godly in comparison. If you want to give Itsuki a little investment, you can give him a +1 merge. That would normally give him +1 HP and +1 attack, but with the neutral nature he will also get an additional +1 HP, attack, and speed. The 1 extra speed is a little odd, but it doesn't hurt him, and if you want to build for speed, then 1 speed is 1 speed, right? The real spicy part is that with just 1 merge, Itsuki can get 39 base attack, and with Mirage Falchion that becomes 55 attack, not including any of its attack boost. With the always active +3 attack, he's gonna have 58 attack during combat, which is just hilarious for a free unit. For Itsuki, I have a few oddball comparisons. The only other sword infantry unit to even have more than 30 defense and 30 resistance is Summer Hellbindi, who is also the one with the highest base res stat. He is a limited time unit though, and he sacrifices all his speed, where Itsuki could at least invest in his a little bit. Looking at our free units, we have 2 high-ish res swordsmen, and they are Lloyd and Joshua. Lloyd's biggest issue is that awful 20 base defense, which is not great for a melee unit to have. He would actually be an okay distant ward user. As for Joshua, he is very balanced, and his Odd Huma does grant a flat +5 resistance. If he gets it refined, this could change, but Joshua does focus more on speed with his decent defense and res stats. We'll have to see if they make him even more res focused. Next, I have two units who do not have amazing res stats. Legendary Ike does kind of have similar stats to Itsuki, except he has 11 less resistance. While he can get a speed boon, I have seen speedier builds work for him nicely, so if you want to do the same for Itsuki, I think he can make it work. Obviously, Itsuki doesn't have a distant counter sword or a 4-turn Aether, but I think he can share in Legendary Ike's more unique builds if you want to try something different. Last, we have Astrum. I just wanted to point him out because I do think Astrum is a great free-to-play swordsman. We talked about Itsuki's ability to stack attack and defense with solid base resistance, but Astrum has good attack, defense, and speed, plus he can give himself free self-buffs very easily. If you want a speedier swordsman with good physical bulk, maybe Astrum might be more to your liking. Next, I want to talk about Itsuki's dragon killing niche. So for long-time players, if you've wanted a Falchion user, it was pretty easy to get a hold of one. Crom, Marth, and Roy have all been lower rarity summons since the game's launch, plus you could have gotten Masked Marth, 9 free copies to be exact. He was the free sword unit with dragon effectiveness before, and without spending any heroic grows, it's possible to have a +8 Masked Marth already. Obviously, for newer players, they cannot get all those copies, so in comes Itsuki. He is going to be a spectacular free dragon killer, especially for those that don't want to build up these really old units. Thanks to good old power creep, Itsuki has around 50 more base stats than these guys, and he has high base attack and good resistance, which are what you want to fight against a magic damage dealing dragon. With Mirage Falchion potentially giving even more attack, that just helps Itsuki one-shot dragon enemies, and if he can do that, his lower speed stat isn't as much of an issue. If you wanted to tank hits from dragons, Itsuki's good res stat can help keep him alive in fights longer for those extended battles. For newer players who may struggle with dragons, Itsuki is a great unit to hold on to. It doesn't even take a lot of investment if you just want him to fight dragons primarily. For builds and playstyles, it's important to understand the game plan with Mirage Falchion. On the player phase, Itsuki ideally wants to move 3rd or later to get the full attack and defense boost. This isn't as easy to do depending on the situation, but it's not a huge penalty if he does go first. Luckily, with attack and defense link, if you want to activate it first, then you already have to spend an action. You can smite Itsuki forward or just reposition him and then send them into attack. Pretty common tactic. Now for the enemy phase, Itsuki wants to get attacked by the first enemy to move. This will get him his full +7 attack and defense boost, and if Itsuki KOs that enemy, he will keep that same +7 boost for the next enemy to attack him. We saw this in the last video. These session skills and Mirage Falchion do not count dead units as having already acted, so if you want to have Itsuki fight multiple times in one turn, you really want him to KO all his enemies to retain the most amount of bonus stats. For that reason, quick riposte is going to be a staple on most builds. If you do not invest in more speed, this skill can get Itsuki his follow-up attack, and with his high base attack, hopefully that means a KO. To keep things simple, something like attack and defense bond would be nice if you just want to invest in physical damage fighting. Bait the enemy in, Itsuki gets +7 attack and defense from Mirage Falchion, +5 attack and defense from the bond skill, and maybe +6 attack and defense if you activate the link buff. You could also use Steady Stance 3 or a similar defensive A skill. While I think attack and defense link is a great skill, you can swap in quick riposte in the B slot to have a different sacred seal. You can do this if you plan to buff Itsuki with another ally. For specials, so is fine to keep, especially if you want to keep quick riposte up, but obviously Bonfire is the choice for a large amount of damage. If you want a really simple player phase setup, you can go with Death Blow, Vantage, and a Brazen Seal. This would be good if you just want Itsuki to take out dragons in one shot, and he can get some defensive capabilities with Vantage, a Brazen Defense or Res variant, and then Attack Smoke. A more expensive version of the setup would just be to substitute in Sturdy Impact instead for Death Blow. Next, we'll focus on more enemy face sets because it's just easier to get the full stat boost from Mirage Falchion this way. You should note that Mirage Falchion can be taken advantage of rather easily. For example, if the enemy has a rally skill, that unit is going to rally the first enemy, which is one action, and that means less attack and defense for Itsuki. Same applies to healers and dancers. Now the good thing is that Itsuki is less penalized for not playing optimally. Remember that he is always getting that +3 attack and +6 defense from the weapon no matter what, unlike Tsubasa, who loses a ton of attack and speed plus her desperation ability if she doesn't go second or later. Itsuki is only going to lose out on 2 to 4 extra attack and defense. He doesn't have as high a stat boost, but he will still perform fine for the most part. If you want to upgrade the first builds we discussed, a tier 4 stand skill would be great for the the added guard ability. Steady Stance 4 is nice, but if you want to wait for a Sturdy Stance 3 skill, I think that would be even better. For those that want to go the speed route, you could use Steady Posture 3. You can also use any res increasing variants as well, like Mirror Stance 3. Remember, if you want a sword unit who can take magic damage, Itsuki is one of your best options. He could even run the Barrier Blade if you really wanted to. That said, with Mirage Falchion, Itsuki gets a ton of free defense, and that can allow him to spec more into resistance. Warding Breath would be great for spamming specials, and you can use even Res Wave and the new Mirror Stance Sacred Seal for more magical tanking potential. I would also consider Distant Counter, since Itsuki has a very nice amount of defense and res. If you want to go full plus 10 murders, I can't see why this wouldn't be a fun build for general content. I would keep Quick Riposte in some way, and some great combos could be with low attack and defense with the Quick Riposte seal. This would get Itsuki extra damage, plus he nullifies attack buffs, which is going to make him even harder to kill. If you want to use Quick Riposte in the B slot, then you have a variety of defensive sacred seals on hand. Defense and res bond can get Itsuki both stats for ranged and melee tanking, otherwise you get good old close and distant defense. I feel like Itsuki has the potential to run all kinds of different builds depending on what you need him to do. He will be more expensive to merge up because he is a Tempest reward unit, but man, for the players that do invest in him a lot, you have so many skills to choose from. Here are some I wanted to highlight in no particular order. Since Mirage Falchion is basically a stat boosting weapon and Itsuki has great defense and res, a bonus doubler set would be a ton of fun. You could also run with a solo A skill or a brazen skill if you don't mind being on the lower side of HP. Heavy Blade 4 could be a consideration with all the attack Mirage Falchion offers, but Itsuki doesn't have built-in follow-up attacks. The Sacred Seal version is also a good choice for more cooldown. We mentioned Mirror Stance 3 if you want to focus on res tanking more, and for the player phase builds, the impact skills are nice since they help mitigate his lower speed stat. They can help set up for Vanish type builds. Fortress Defense and Res 3 would be a fine option if you want the flat defense and res boost. For B skills, another simple option is Renewal, but for more aggressive play, Special Spiral could be a lot of fun. That combined with Aether or Ignis Spam and some other special cooldown skills would be ideal. If you do go the Distant Counter route, Null Sea Disrupt is a potential option. Not the most benefiting skill for general play, but maybe you just hate Dazzling Staff or Fire Sweep weapons. For C skills, if you don't use attack and defense link, but still want self buffing, you have the Oath and Ruse skills. A bit expensive, but they are there. I also glossed over it completely, but if you're going for a low investment build, you can always just add on more support skills. Attack and defense link plus drive defense is fine to keep. You can give Itsuki some Hone, Fortify, or tactic buffs to fill in the gaps, or stack on more combat buffs with drives and spurs. Other sacred seals you can always slot in include Brazen Tech and Res, since Itsuki already has a good amount of defense from Mirage Falchion. Sturdy Blow or Swift Sparrow could be used if you want more defense or extra speed. Again, Itsuki isn't unbearably slow. If you want another support seal, the chill skills are great. If you just don't need anything specific, chill defense could help Itsuki get one shots on tankier enemies, or chill attack lets them tank better. Lots and lots of options. Do share your build ideas with everyone in the comments. Overall, this is a very good Tempest Trials. Mirror Stance and Chill Res are great secret seals. They are worth the upgrades if you like what they offer. The only one I would say not worth upgrading is Defiant Defense. I mean, I wouldn't recommend even using it at all. Regarding Itsuki, I think he is a great Tempest reward unit. He isn't going to be competing for fastest sword infantry in the game, but he shines in other areas, especially his good amount of base resistance. Mirage Falchion is a neat dragon effect in this weapon. It can give Itsuki a ton of attack and defense, and remember, it always gives some amount of extra stats no matter what happens. I don't think Itsuki will be busted or anything. He's just a solid all-around sword unit with a unique stat line. He should be very fun to use if you do intend to give him some better skill sets. Since he is already a 5-star unit, he will be great for newer players if you need a Falchion user. He has the damage to one-shot dragons, and his chances of surviving their attacks are at least decent compared to other Falchion holders. I like that he already has a really good base kit, and there is clearly room for improvement if you want. Itsuki is a great way to cap off this Tokyo Mirage Sessions event. Thanks for watching, good luck getting all those rewards, and stay tuned, the next anniversary is right around the corner.